Hi, I think we are live. So if you're watching this on catch up, thank you for joining. Very, very excited about this conversation. Hey ZTs, hi Michelle, welcome, welcome. Hi Nadine, welcome everyone. Hi Tace. Hi Tatina, hi Nix, hi Cap, hello Carla, hello Liesel. Welcome to everyone who's just hopped on. As I just said, I'm very excited about this conversation. It's a goodie. It's with one of my favorite human beings on this planet. And we are going to get started. Excited for this. Make yourself comfy. Make yourself some tea. I've got some nice tea. Can't really see the color in here.
Hello.
Hi, Tams.
Hi.
Hello. It's like we've got to do an Instagram live to spend time together.
I'm just thinking I'm sitting in my bed where you've house sat many times.
Whenever you need me, I'm there. I had my whole setup ready in the studio, and then I was like, oh, load shedding, so I had to move everything upstairs now, but at least we've got Wi-Fi, so I'm definitely not going to complain. Not going to complain.
Yes, and it was right on time, which was good.
I mean, just trusty ESCOM, hey? Just so proud of them when they put my power off right on time. What can we do? What can we do? But welcome to everyone who's here. Visal, welcome, welcome. Tanya, welcome. Leanne, everyone who's here. Mara's here. Hi, Mara. Welcome, everyone. It's lovely to have you all here. Yeah, I think we're going to get started. It's almost 5 past, and we have lots to chat about. We are looking at a 30-minute time frame, but I might squeeze an extra 5 minutes out of Tamsin if I can, because everything we're going to speak about could actually be, Tamsin's got teacher training courses around all of these topics because there is so much to learn around it. So I just quickly wanted to, those of you who might not know me, I'm Kathleen, and I am a yoga teacher. I did all of my trainings with Tamsin at the Charlotte Cape Town Yoga School. So I did my 200-hour and my 300-hour there. But mostly, I think, except for the trainings, I did life training at the Charlotte. I think that was my biggest module to get through, was self-development. So I'll just always be so grateful for the 5 years that I had there. And I'm so excited to have you here, Tams. Thank you so much for making the time. I know you've just come out of a training. I know you're going into your next training. So I really appreciate that you've made the time to be here.
Cool. Thank you for, nice to be here.
Cool. Well, I think then, Tams, do you want to just kick off with a little bit of who you are and where you're from, for those who don't know who you are?
I try to make notes for your question. I'm just going to go off the cuff. I'm South African. I was born and raised in Pretoria, and then had the privilege to go to university, first Maritzburg in Cape Town. I studied psychology and then was left with a big bill at the end of that for my studies. And in those days, you could get a 2-year visa to the UK. So I kind of got some money together, hopped on a plane to go pay back my student loan, and lived in Edinburgh for 2 years. And I think that's really where my journey started. I found both beer and detoxing in one city.
All about the balance.
I think I started by working like 3 jobs, trying to get this loan paid off, and then looking forward to kind of getting money to travel further. And with that, kind of drank coffee by day and drank beer by night. And I got probably a year into that, and just felt terrible in my body. And my mom had always done this one cleanse every year, this Leslie Kenton cleanse. And I scoured the bookshops, and and found a cleansing book that I could use and put myself on my first cleanse. And it was really simple. It was basically just eating one kind of fruit for like 3 days. Like you could choose a fruit and then going onto fruit and vegetables. And I was already vegetarian, but then just changing that to more of a vegan lifestyle after the cleanse, and feeling like I had more control over my energy, and that not that I gave up coffee and beer, but that I could manage the two, and I could and with that started a yoga practice. And when it was time to kind of close the UK chapter, I bought a yoga book. I can't even remember which one it was. It was something kind of commercial. And I bought myself a yoga mat and decided that was my practice, and this was a commitment to my well-being. And that was 2001. And it's kind of been a very deep journey into trying to find my own balance with that. Trying to live a life that is full and enjoyable, and also real, in that I can still be part of my family and part of family events, but have a yoga practice that can sustain me spiritually, mentally, and physically, so that I can fully show up as an authentic person in my family with, I don't know, all my other stuff. So that's kind of where, yeah, I started. And so kind of cleansing for me and yoga came at the same time. And then later on, I did a whole 2-year study with Carly Louw in Pretoria that was all the cleansing modules. And that was the youngest person by like 30 years. So all working with much older bodies, and that's also a big love of mine, to work with older bodies. And yeah, so I think like where I'm straddling now is in my work is teacher training, the cleansing practices, and then working with older bodies in all my older and sick bodies in all my private. Yeah.
Sure. Around the world, hey, to find your calling and to find your purpose. It's amazing how that works, and then bringing you back to South Africa, bringing you to Cape Town, to the first studio that you taught at.
Yeah. So I think I got to a point in my travels, been in and out of a backpack for 6 years, and just wanting to really ground and wanting to create roots, and not knowing what that would look like. And I think if I backtrack to when I first moved to Thailand, and picking up a book on consciousness and Buddhist philosophy really opened another door for me. I was brought up Catholic, and I shut that door at about 16, 17, not being able to fathom all the dogma that was placed in that spiritual world for me, and couldn't find traction there. And it was only then actually traveling and going more into different philosophies that I started to go, I'm deeply spiritual. I'm always deeply connected. I just can't work with this dogma. I've got to find my own way. And that led me obviously to yoga and cleansing and meditation. And the journey back to Cape Town was in a meditation. It was, I was kind of traveling and looking for a place to ground. Didn't think it would be South Africa. And Cape Town came to me quite strongly, and I followed that intuition in calling for different signs and different doors to open for me. So I moved back here at the end of 2006, and then started working at my first yoga studio, which was then in those days Moksha. It was a Ashtanga based studio in Cape Town. A really amazing owner, Chris Loka, who allowed me into the space. Even though as Ashtanga trained, I wasn't that keen to teach Ashtanga, because by that stage I'd done a big 2-year in more more the Shatkamas, the cleansing practices, different kinds of yoga, for different stages of the day. So a morning practice, an afternoon practice, and not only the same sequence. And he was really trusting of me and gave me an amazing platform at his studio. And there at that studio, I met so many of the friends I still have today. And I was, yeah, and I think those friendships formed for me, bringing something new into the space that wasn't Ashtanga. And that studio in 6 months had to close due to lease issues. And there wasn't really another studio in those days except for the hot studio all the way in town. And so there was like small Iyengar studios. So there was kind of like this opening for me to step into. And my first studio was tiny, had 12 mats. And we kind of worked out that if we had, I think it was 1 or 2 people per class, that we could cover expenses. So with 200 Rand, we made little flyers and just opened a space. And it was to create a space for real practice, people that wanted to show up to really do the work in their bodies, to grow together, I suppose, and also not to have this hierarchical thing of a guru, but yeah, this is Tamsin, I remember that one, to more explore spirituality together and really more in a questioning format. So opened that, and then with that did lots and lots of different trainings. Whoever was coming to Cape Town, a very influential teacher, Shimon Ben Avi, who is an Ashtanga teacher, but taught in a very philosophical way. And I think then running the studio and then running my privates, in fact, one of my, I think you know them, Kiki, Janet, and Vincent, I've been teaching for years, you know, and they were the first privates I have. And Vincent will celebrate his 80th birthday, I think, next month. And that's been incredible. So what I've done alongside the studio is always maintain connection to private clients, because I think that's so important. They teach us so much. And especially private clients that are not necessarily can walk into a studio and get going in a class. They have special needs. They have they need a little bit more care, a little bit more research, and so that's kind of how I formulated that. And I think with our first teacher training, which we launched in 2012, which changed venues and kind of gave the studio a little bit of a facelift, that was coming from a calling of not seeing a teacher training around that was doing a bigger scope of practice rather than just asana, a scope of training that you could have very deep philosophical discussions, and a teacher training that was also embedded in contemporary. So it's not just going and learning a whole lot of information that is not relevant to maybe a South African context or more contemporary context. And so that teacher training was written by Mariah Betts and Adila Suka and myself, and we ran that for many years, and then it's changed over the time. Adila and I still are the main teachers, and we brought Tom, my husband, as the anatomy and kind of the anatomy and theoretical framework, and looking more at that therapy relationship that you have, and kind of that's kind of been the team for the last many years, 7 years.
Something that really stood out to me now, I always find it so interesting when I introduce myself as someone who teaches yoga, and one of the first questions I get is, oh, what kind of yoga do you teach? And I always find that it's like one of the hardest things to answer, because the trainings I feel like I've done at the Shala and teachers you've introduced me to, and other work that I've done, and then life experience, that all comes together and it all fits together. You know, like if I look at someone like you've done Ashtanga, you've done Iyengar training, you've done, you know, such a big myriad. So just a little ad hoc question. If someone asks you what kind of yoga do you teach, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I suppose the yoga of life, in a way, you know, the practice that's ever changing for me, so many variations. I suppose in asana, it's alignment based. Strength and alignment is what, and that's definitely come from the teachers most recent in my license, probably 2015, Rinat, Perlman, and Patrick Creelman. Such incredible, precise training. I love the strength that the practice has given my body. But with that, I also love all the lymph work that I've learned through people like Keith McFarlane and just my own journey, because I think there's time for something to be really strong and aligned. Obviously, there's time for deep restorative yoga, but I'm also very interested in how yoga, and we know this so well, but how yoga can move the lymphatic system. So the more energetic practices, maybe taken more from the Tibetan forms of yoga. But I suppose what we need, and I think, Kiki, you do this so well, is to teach the people around us. And the people around us need something to be taken as a teacher that is dedicated, and you're continuing studying, but then you want to take all of that information and integrate it and give it to someone very simply. Because if someone is an accountant, or I don't know, works in a tech and a digital, very corporate, they don't have the time that we have dedicated for study. They need something that is very effective and that can really aid their lives, whether it's to de-stress, or whether it's to strengthen, or whether it's to open their bodies, or whether it's to create new neurological pathways. I think us as teachers, all of us that have dedicated our lives to teachers, it's really our job to keep studying very diverse, and then trying to integrate into something that is almost like a one-liner. That is, for me, the bottom line. What is the bottom line of this? And it's great, because then you're teaching something that is authentic and integrated to, and not necessarily. And I suppose also my Catholicism background is like, oh, no dogma. As soon as I start to hear like, you can't practice on a Sunday, or this, or you, for me, that's a big, like, I can't go in those spaces. I definitely need boundaries and rules, and there's definitely structure, but there also needs to be a fluidness to practice, and practice has to change. And I said earlier, like, the morning practice is very different to what you can do in the middle of the day. And doing a 5 or 5:30 class after work is very different to when you get home and you're trying to practice at 7 p.m. Like, all these different stages of the day and different cycles of the month and different seasons have to be navigated slightly.
Yeah, 100%. I think that really makes me think of really distinguishing for yourself between what is routine in your life and what is ritual in our life. There are a lot of things that have to be routine, like the kids have to be at school at 7, or you teach your class at this time, or whatever that is. But I think the issue comes in is when we try and make our healing practices and our support practices part of our routine instead of part of ritual. So it's like, every morning I go to yoga at 7. Okay, but now Wednesday you can't get to yoga. Now your whole day is messed up. Whereas if the intention is ritual, and my ritual is to move my body every day, then it doesn't matter what time of the day or how I'm going to move my body, but I get to do it in a way that, even if it's like, I have to take the kids to the park, and you do your limb up, like I always say, just do your limb swings wherever, or sit in a squat, it's using your own life, creating your own life in your own space, instead of trying to fit in what you think you should do. But I actually had a laugh, Tams. Also, I had a laugh now at you saying the bottom line, because I think you've said that to me quite a few times. giving me feedback, being like, Kathleen, what's the bottom line of what this class was supposed to be? Like, where were you going with this? But I actually, I found this very easily, because I knew exactly where it was, is actually my notes from Revitalize.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
I think I've done 2 or 3 of those with you. And so I've got like week 1, and I've got week 2 and 3 and 4 in here. And what was interesting is the 2 things that I wrote at the top of each week. For week 1, it was solitude and the root of least resistance. And then for week 2 was do things to aid you in your day. And when I read those, it was so interesting because even though Revitalize has so much to do with the physical practices, with nutrition, with detoxification, all of that, the main two things that I'd pulled out first and foremost was much deeper than that. It was a much deeper connection. And I think that really just is such a testament to the work that you are offering the world, to the tools that you're teaching. And you know, I think for us as teachers, like you said, is our responsibility to hand that over, because in the end, that knowledge does not belong to us. And it has come through us for people. So it's, you know, when people say to me, oh, Kathleen, you know, you've done so much, you've like changed my life or whatever it is. And I'm like, you did that yourself. Like, you know, you absolutely did that yourself. I'm going to skip back to Revitalize because I know you're going into what is now the Revitalize module of your 300-hour teacher training, but which started many, many years ago as a 4-week Revitalize program, which I think many, many of your students would love for you to do again. If I wasn't doing Vipassana in November, I was like so close to signing up again. But tell us a little more about Revitalize, how it started, a little bit about, I think if someone has no idea where you'd start with a cleanse, how you've approached that.
Yeah. I think what you, those interesting, those two bottom lines that you got from Revitalize is exactly that, because a lot of the time with the cleansing, you kind of focused on what you can put in your body and what you need to do to move your body to keep the cleansing process going, so you don't get stuck. But what the gems are those things that you take out of the cleanse, because we can't live our life in a cleanse, you know. So maybe in Revitalize, we used to do 4 weeks, was so great because we would have a slow integration. First no sugar, then no meat, then no wheat, you know, and dairy, and no caffeine and no alcohol, and like in a very slow progression, doing all the lymph work and all the inversions, and just noticing when different choices you have to make when you have chosen to eradicate something. And again, it's a privilege to choose your food, but when you have chosen to eradicate something from your system because it's ultimately not nutritious. I mean, that's really, we can talk about toxins and everything like that, but Revitalize is really about eradicating things that don't hold nutritional value for your body. So obviously all the processed foods and the processed sugars, and then asking your body later on to, once that's eradicated, to simplify the diet so that your digestive system has the least amount of work to do to process the nutrients. So whether it's like 2-ingredient meals, rice and broccoli, or even a 2-ingredient smoothie, an apple and a spinach, or whatever it is, like trying to simplify the way you eat so that you can get these aha moments. Because when you're eating your normal diet and you're carrying on with your normal life, you're not really thinking about it. You're sometimes led by addiction or a taste bud more than you're like, what am I this for? But like, what is the body needing? Which is, it's in that revitalization process, you get the opportunity to ask yourself questions all the time. And then to go like, oh, I'm really craving sugar. Like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. And then to sit with that. So to not reach for the sugar or stem that craving, but actually sit into contemplation of that. And I think that's one of the biggest things. It's to build intuition and to sit in contemplation, and then to notice how much food we eat that is actually not necessary. So I think even like with looking at food as a way to support rituals, like there are times where you sit down and everybody's contributed to a meal, or you spent the whole day cooking a beautiful meal. That's not an everyday thing. Like an everyday thing is really eating simple, effective food that can digest in your system, that is healthy and relatively inexpensive and can be enjoyed quite quickly. Otherwise, you're reaching for processed food. So it's like, then there's opportunities to sit around a table and have deep conversation and eat abundantly. But these two things are different. Mm-hmm. And I think what I always say, like, people want their Sunday roast every day of the week, but that is not how the body can't absorb that amount of food, or that richness, or that collection of food. So Revitalize is just about simplifying and actually also simplifying and cleansing the taste buds, so that when you eat a papaya for the first time, like, you know, if you say you've eaten no sugar or anything like that for a week, and then you eat a papaya, you really get to taste it, and it becomes more of a relationship between you and whole food. So that's the food part. But then, you know, there's other simple cleansing rituals. You know, one of the questions you asked me was like, what do I do on a daily basis? Like, brushing your teeth is a cleansing practice. Flossing your teeth is a cleansing practice. Drinking a cup of water in the morning is a cleansing practice. We do these cleansing practices all the time, but sometimes we don't give them enough awareness, and we don't use them enough. Like, when we're not feeling well, what can we do what can we do from the toolbox, from Revitalize, that will help to change the pH in our body, like quickly eradicate something that you can feel coming on. And I think the more we spend time with that, the more we can catch things before they develop in the body, because you become quite attuned.
Sure, there's so much we can unpack here. Yeah, I think that a lot of the time when people think I'm going to go on a cleanse or I'm going to do a detox, I think that there's this idea that you can go out to the shops, do a juice cleanse, buy some supplements, go to your yoga classes or whatever it is, and there's this thing of, I'm going to add in so much good that I'm then going to do better and I'm going to be better. But I think the reality is that in our lives already, there are things that we are doing that are serving us, and there are things that we are doing that are not serving us. And if we were only doing things that are not serving us, let's face it, you're gonna peg at some point. But if you are still alive, there is a lot that you can do to add to what you're doing well. But for me, I think, and you'll know this about me, Tams, is it's not that I was doing, or that I have been doing, still in the process of, it's not I wasn't doing things that were good for myself. You know, I've been doing yoga and I've been swimming or walking or whatever it is you're doing that's already good for you. But you have to look at the things that are lowering your vibration, that are causing toxicity, not only in your body, but in your mind and in your energetics. And you need to first, and I think that's such a beautiful part of Revitalize, is let's first look at removing some of the things that are causing you to be blocked, to be stagnant, to get sick, to get ill, to be fatigued. Remove those, and then from there start to move forward, instead of trying. It's almost like, I think you described it once, the lymphatic system. I'm not sure if you described it this way, that if you had this beautiful house and you put in all this beautiful furniture and artwork, and it was just amazing, grand pianos, whatever you want in there, and you never cleaned it, it wouldn't matter what was in the house, because it would just become myth and sif at some point. And so it doesn't matter if you're trying to go out and buy superfoods, or you're buying the most organic or whatever. If you're not cleansing your body, if you're not using those daily cleansing rituals, if you're not eliminating the things that are still building up toxicity, and it's hard. I mean, you know, Tams, like something like access to quality water, it's not everyone's privilege. The air we're breathing around us, the products that we're using on our skin, they're all things that are contributing to your poor liver and your guts and your body having to rebalance and sort itself back out. And so I really, I think that's one of the big things that always stuck with me from Revitalize is stop trying to do more. Don't stop trying to do more of what's good. Keep doing the good things, but look at the things that are holding you back.
Yeah, completely. And further to that house description is so what I'd always say is, like, especially in the kitchen area, blood is bringing groceries in. So you're bringing all the good groceries into your kitchen, but if you're not doing your dishes, which is the lymph thing that just gets piled up. And then the house analogy is a beautiful house, but if your bowels aren't working properly, the plumbing is going to stink. So a lot around revitalization is around focusing on elimination, having very healthy conversations about your bowel movement, getting really understanding of that's a cleansing. Every time you have a bowel movement, your body is cleansing itself. We all know that. So something like urine or sweat is a secretion, but your literal poo coming out of your body, your fecal matter, is an excretion. It's complete waste product. It's dead skulls, it's toxins, and it's waste product from your body that's being cleared out all the time. You've got to look at that. And as you said, you can buy all the supplements, you can do all, if the backlog is not getting cleared out, that's really a problem. So with Revitalize, it's just eliminating a few things around the diet, so getting cleaner, getting easier to digest, so that you can actually focus on bowel. And bowel is the yoga practices have given us so much around the bowel. Like, they've given us very simple saltwater cleansers to clean the bowel. Once you know saltwater cleanser, it's a very easy thing to do. It's very inexpensive. Nauli, the Uddiyana Bandha, the massaging your belly with your own abdominal muscles. It takes a few months, sometimes years to learn, but then every morning you can massage your own bowels, and that's a cleansing practice. So I think, like, we should eat for digestion more than we eat for enjoyment. Remember, I was describing that beautiful meal, you're sitting with your family, blah, blah, blah. That's beautiful. That's enjoyment. But on a regular basis, you should be eating for digestion. And if you have a backlog in digestion, that first has to be seen to before you can start putting anything else. So things like, if I have a massive meal at night, I won't eat breakfast the next morning, because I know I'm still digesting that food in my system. If I have a massive lunch, I might not eat dinner because I'm still digesting that food in my system. And we've got to have periods of time in the day where we're not eating anything to give us that time to digest. And in the evening, we've got to stop eating at a certain point, so that when we're sleeping, the body can rest and digest. And then the next morning you start the cleansing cycle, because it starts from about 4 a.m. Depending on your cycle. About 4 a.m. you start your cleansing ritual, where everything then starts. Once everything's been absorbed in the body, then the organs go, great, now we're going to dump all our toxins into the bowel, because mostly in a healthy working body, you've got your first bowel movements in the morning. So that's a dump from your body. That's a cleansing cycle. It's a good time then to do your trampoline work, or do your lymphatic work, or do a little practice, or go for a walk, and then come back and then start putting nutrients in, because you've helped your body in that normal cycle.
Absolutely. Sure. Tams, I think we've actually covered so much. There's a million other things that I think we could talk about if we had the time, but I am conscious of the time. Thank you so much. There is definitely going to be a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of this. There's so much. I mean, just the lymphatic system, talking about that is a episode on its own. If we go deeper into the cleansing practices, we go into you know, sharing more about the short karmas or APMB and the information that is in there, the gems of info that are in there. So thank you so much, Tams. Yeah, I don't even really feel like I need to ask you to give any last pointers because there's so much information that's been shared in here. If someone has not gotten one thing out of this, then I don't know, send us a message, because then we've done something very wrong. But I did want to ask you, this is the first conversation that I'm having, which is going to be a new passion project of mine. It is going to be converted into a podcast, which is very, very exciting. The podcast's name is As It Is. And that also, Tams, came to me in a download, in a meditation. And it's amazing. You know, you've spoken so much about intuition in this talk, and it's something that's really come up for me a lot with clients and with friends at the moment. And that actually, I thought about it now, as we can talk about the sense of interoception, which is your ability to distinguish, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do my bowels need to move? Like, becoming attuned to your body, becoming attuned to yourself. But these are all conversations we're still going to have. So the phrase seeing things as they are, if you had to just describe or reflect on what that means to you, what would that mean to you?
And the first thing that came up to me is greater wisdom is at play. When we see things as they are, we understand greater wisdom is at play.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tams.
Oh, thank you, my love.
Thank you so, so much. I have so much love for you. And I will have to see you soon in person again. And maybe our next talk can be in person. That will be fun as well. And for everyone or anyone who is interested in knowing more about Tamsin or the Shala, there's so much we can still cover, but I will put some links in the comments here on Instagram, and then on the podcast it'll be in the show notes, so you can go to the Shala, go for a class, go do one of Tamsin's classes, look up their trainings. I'm not biased, but I recommend anything and everything that Tamsin has to offer. I always say yoga and you and Tom and the Shala didn't change my life. It saved my life. And we've had many fights and many classes and many trainings and all kinds of things. But it really is a big part of what has shaped me to be the person I am today. So I'm just forever grateful.
Thank you, my love. You did the work. You did. Yeah, you showed up when it was fucking hard to do, and you did the work. And you swear.
Yes, you can say whatever you want to say. We can say whatever we want to say on here.
Yeah, you really did. And that's the thing. It's not easy. The journey is not easy. To know yourself is not easy. To attune to yourself is not easy. And to show up for yourself is not easy. And you've done that again and again and again.
Thanks, Tams.
All right, thanks, guys.
So much love, and thank you to everyone who has stuck around for this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment or leave a question. We really are nerds when it comes to this kind of thing. So any question you ask, we get excited about answering it. So don't ever feel like there's a stupid question. And other than that, I guess we will both see you all on the mat somewhere, sometime. And yeah, stay safe. Have a beautiful evening. And I will speak to you and see you guys all soon.
Thanks, my babe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.